Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations. You have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up, and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Welcome to the Wicked Radio Network.
A light sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A light sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name's Jen. I am your hostess, and my co-host extraordinaire, as always, is Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Hello. Hey.
I can't hear hey without thinking, I'm Fat Albert, you know?
No, that's a different way.
I know.
That's hey. So it's a different delivery.
I know, and
Yeah.
I know hey is from something else,
Yeah.
but I just, yeah. Oh, speaking of which, folks, I revisited In Living Color over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. I got a couple bad episodes, but it was not the show that I remember it to be.
There's still plenty of gems in that.
There's so many gems,
Yeah.
but none of them were on the episodes that I watched.
Yeah, there's a lot that doesn't hold up.
Yeah, it just was not holding up.
Yeah. There's also a lot that they wouldn't be able to do today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they did a whole skit on the butt heads, or people who had butts on their foreheads.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Carrey's character was Richard Dickerson.
Yeah.
Dickerson.
Right.
You know, and he liked to be called Dick, and he had like a big, long, skinny nose, and
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine it goes from there.
Yes.
Which wasn't horrible, but it didn't stand up.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
It's sad when your childhood favorites and stuff, you go back and revisit, and it's like, oh, I should have just left it in a memory.
But when you're watching, though, you also should also remember how many years ago it was, and think about how far they pushed the envelope on that show, too. Yeah, really. Because there's a lot of really progressive stuff on that show. I mean, they really were pushing. Like, Men on Film and stuff, as much as it's silly and it's irreverent, they were really pushing something into people's households that people, for the most part, did not have in their households or did not want in their households, you know, and even though it was a cartoon,
the African American community.
Yes, and it was even though it was a cartoonish version of something, they were really pushing envelopes on that show.
Yeah,
you know. So
I'll give it respect for what it is and
Yeah.
stuff and what they did. But I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt that I just got a couple bad episodes. But
yeah,
I was like, oof, okay.
Yeah.
This is not the humor I remember.
It's tough with any sketch show to go back because so many of them you're kind of caught up in the time a little bit too, you know, like
True.
if you go back and watch Saturday Night Live, you know, I went back and when Netflix added, for a while Netflix had like every year of Saturday Night Live. And I went back to the beginning and was watching it and oh my goodness, watching some of that, the first year was brutal. Some of those sketches are bad, you know, and people always want to romanticize some of the early stuff and some of those sketches are bad. They're not funny, you know, and stuff. And, whew, you know, there's some real good moments in some of those. And I think that's what you remember. And then you're like, ooh, there's some really terrible ones in here too. You know, like any sketch show, there's always going to be misses, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's the classic ones, you know, like Buckwheat Sings the Hits.
Yeah, but even that's getting, you have to go a few years in to get to that.
Oh, gotcha. You're talking like the
I'm talking the very beginning of the show. Yeah,
gotcha.
it was a different show even the first few years. You know, it was, the presentation was even it was still similar, but it was still, it was a little bit different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's why I said when I went back and I was like, "Ooh, this is not what I remembered it being," you know.
I know we're all getting to that age where you know start reminiscing a bit, and you go back and you're like, "Oh, I remember this when I was a kid." No,
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, the nostalgia wore off. Now, oh boy.
You know, I caught an episode of Captain America, or not Captain America. Captain Planet.
Ugh.
Oh yes, I caught an episode of Captain Planet the other day, and I'll tell you what, I know it was heavy-handed at the time. I mean, I wasn't that naive, but man, is that so over the top, heavy-handed with their message?
Yeah.
My goodness.
The only good Captain Planet to watch is the one where it's Don Cheadle dressed up as Captain Planet.
Oh.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
That's awesome. He's head to toe, he totally is in the costume and everything. And he's just doing a comedy bit of it. I'm sure if you just type in Don Cheadle, you know, the actor Don Cheadle, as Captain Planet on YouTube, it'll come up and it's awesome. That's the only Captain Planet thing that I would ever. I never liked the cartoon, so.
Yeah, and I mean, just one thing I would like to see again though is the Mutant Monster League, that cartoon, because I used to watch it when I was getting ready to go to school. But it's the Mutant Monster League with Bones Jones.
Huh.
And yes, before Bones Jones was
UFC. Are you
UFC? Thank you.
Are you talking like the ones where they had the games on like Sega Genesis and stuff, like the Mutant League Hockey and?
Yes, they had a cartoon.
Okay. That was Bones Jackson.
Okay, sorry.
Because
Bones
it was
Jackson.
spoofing Bo Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he actually
because he was from Mutant League Football originally.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He actually has a striking resemblance to Michael Jackson.
Oh, right.
If you,
you
put their pictures next to each other, which I think it was coincidental. I don't think it was intended. But
I don't know.
Yes.
It might have been intended. They did a lot of their spoofs based on athletes and celebrities in the games.
Yeah.
So it might have been intentional.
But it was one of those. It had to have been at like 5:30 in the morning or something, or 6 in the morning, or type of a thing.
That game. Oh man, Tony, my co-host on Salty Language, and we used to play Mutant League Hockey so much. Mm-hmm. Oh man, did we love that game, because there was all sorts of ridiculous stuff you can do in that game. You know, I mean, the point of the game. I mean, you can make the other team forfeit by literally killing the other team.
And that's the cartoon was pretty violent.
It was. Yeah, horribly.
Yeah, there was like bones breaking and crunching, and I mean, it was pretty violent. Limbs going everywhere type stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we've gone down that rabbit hole. how's your guys' week's been? Who wants to go first? Crickets!
No, we were, that pause was, we were letting the listener go. That way it was like they were taking part in the conversation.
I see.
That's great.
That was the listener interactive portion.
Right, and you just, that's great. We're glad you guys are having such a good week. Or, conversely, that's too bad. We hope the week gets better. Whichever one you needed to hear right there.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We appreciate hearing from you.
Yeah. It's a choose your own adventure, crazy life.
Speaking of Flash from the past.
Yeah.
We're gonna dub in some meditation bells a little later.
Sure, right.
Some space.
Aw, reminds me of those books on tape.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Turn page here.
Oh man.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Those, oh gosh, we used to have so many of those little books that would, you put the tape in and they read you the book and tell you when to turn the page and, anyways, not going down that rabbit hole again.
Yeah. I used to finish the book before the tape.
Mm-hmm.
I always would finish the book way ahead of the tape, and then I'd go back, and then, because I'd get impatient. It was like when I would sit in class and we had to read, the whole class, like one person at a time would read like part of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always read so far ahead and then come back, So, yeah.
Like, Brian, your turn to read. Oh, shoot, I'm on page 50. What page are we on?
Yeah, no, I actually would pay attention to where we were at with one of my fingers. I'd keep where we were at, and I would just read ahead, basically. So
I see. I see. Always the overachiever.
Yeah. Listen, I was always on the, the Tigers or Lions or whatever the fast reading, table was. So I wasn't part of the, I don't know. Yeah, whatever the, the used boots or whatever the slow readers were, so.
The lazy lizards.
Yeah, I always felt bad because they always didn't have as cool of a name. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. My week's been pretty uneventful, though, aside from, for some reason, I have hives again. But I don't know why.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know why this time. Like, nothing new. No new soaps, no new medicines, no new foods even. Like, I've been eating pretty much the same stuff I was eating before. And I just have been breaking out the last, 3 days. So, I don't know. The only thing it could be is I've gotten a refill on a prescription. And my psychiatrist did mention to me that with that last allergy I had, that sometimes people aren't allergic to the actual medicine, but sometimes they're allergic to the coating.
Oh,
so maybe I got a different manufacturer, and maybe I'm allergic to a coating on a medicine that I've been taking already. So that's the only thing maybe I could think of. Otherwise, no clue. Yeah.
I suck.
Yeah, my body hates me. It just does everything it can to just fight me. It's like, oh, you've hit a decent patch? Time to life him.
Yeah. Time to life him.
Yep. What's this? What's this? Brian said something about feeling pretty good? Not so fast. No, it was, so, what are you going to do? I've been just, taking Benadryl again, and if it doesn't go away in a couple days, I'm probably going to call the doctor and go in. I don't know what they're going to be able to do though. I'll probably have to stop most of my medicines and then reintroduce them slowly to see if we can figure out if it's one of them or, something like that.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. But yeah, I went to therapy this week and it was nice. I talked to her about, losing my cat and stuff. And that was good, cause it was timely as far as, when I had therapy. So that was good. She was glad that I was able to, not spiral hard out of that, that I felt a floor and was kind of able to see that stuff coming and use what I've learned to prevent, a really bad spiral. And I've had a couple really rough days out of it, but I haven't had, I don't think I've reacted as badly as I thought I was going to, so she was really happy about that, and she even made the comment, like a year ago, I'm not sure you would have reacted the same way. So, which is good that, definitely. And I've said that to you guys that I feel like I've, grown, in the last year or so. So that kind of reaffirms that. So
that's awesome.
Win for the week there, I guess. Right.
Yeah. How are you? How's the new medicine? Still holding up?
It's the same dose. He didn't up it. So everything's kind of leveled though. I actually feel closer to where I was before I started energy wise. Like a lot of that energy's kind of gone now, and I'm starting to kind of feel I'm kind of just feeling meh again a little. I go back in a couple of weeks to the psychiatrist, and I'm pretty they both talked that they'll raise the dose probably then. Because they don't want to wait too long, because then there can be regression, and obviously they don't want that. So,
right.
But otherwise, but again, I still feel kind of like a floor, it's not a firm floor, but it's enough of one that if I feel it, I can go, oh, okay. It's like, there's a wall somewhere, so that if you're, the best way I can put it is if you're drunk and you're like, I just need a wall to lean against. That's the same idea, it's like, if there's a floor here, okay, I can, I'm grounded essentially. I can't fall any further, so it's the same idea there, I guess. So that's been about it for me.
Well, that's good. How about you, Hanno?
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, good. Because suddenly everything sounded all garbled to me, and I'm like, lovely.
Oh, that was actually how I was talking.
That's our new form of communication.
Yes.
On the crazy side.
Garbled talking. Yes.
Yeah, everything's digitized. It's excellent that way.
Right. The listener actually chose garbled talking in their Choose Their Adventure. I'm not sure why it was an option, but
That's funny. Yeah, it's been a good week. I finally decided that I'm going to stop playing live music for a while.
Really?
I was actually I was woken up 2 nights ago by the ringing in my ear.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
It was actually loud enough, and I'm like, and that's what I had mentioned last week that I've been thinking about something, and it's like, because I have all this, I have basically enough equipment to have a whole band on stage and mic everything, and speakers and subwoofers and all this stuff, and and I'm sitting here kind of going, I really am, if I'm damaging my hearing, I have no interest in doing this really.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I can deal with what I have now, but I don't want it to get worse, because I could see that would be rather, kind of annoying if you're woken up all night long by ringing in your ears.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Life altering.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what's kind of weird is I had this plan to start putting together another band, but and it's not a permanent thing. This is I'll just do this for for however long, a year or two. If things get better, I could look at reevaluating. But I think for now, for my health, I'm like, this. I've like everything, I tend to marinate on it for a while and meditate on it and whatever it is that's going on, and Angela and I always talk about this is allow the answer to come to you. Don't put the answer into your head. Allow something to come, and I've just been just waiting kind of patiently, and all of a sudden it was like, no, this is the right thing to do. So, yeah. And I could use the money too. So,
so is that what you're saying? Like you're going to just sell off the stuff basically then?
Yeah, I bought guitars a couple of years ago specifically to play, live with our acoustic duo and me and Aquila. And I'm like, I don't even pick up that 12-string. The only reason I bought it was to have another guitar for live. And it's like, all right, let's sell that. I'll sell this. It's all stuff that if I need it again, I'll get it.
Yeah.
They're actually belong to my business. They're part of my business. So
right.
I'm just, and I'm actually going to fold the business. I think I'm going to retire Monkey Tongue Productions and do something else more reflective of what I'm interested in, which is obviously podcasting. And that's the other part of it is maybe trying to come up with a revenue source, an extra revenue, a source of income that is based on either something to do with podcasting or recording or, that kind of a thing, and move away from, because it's the gigs, they don't pay a lot up here, but the little extra money here and there really is good in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so it's
been a cathartic week.
I'm very, like. What was that?
Sounds like it's been a cathartic week.
Yeah. But it's interesting because it wasn't in the, usually these things happen in the midst of turmoil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I didn't have that. I had it happening, which is actually to me another reason why I feel that I am making a sound decision for myself, because it's not a reaction. I mean, it is a reaction in a way, but it's not like things went horrible all of a sudden and I have to do something.
Yeah. No,
I'm actually making a conscious choice. I've kind of allowed it to develop on its own, and it's good to be doing it not from a sense of panic, but from actually a very calm place. I mean, life is good right now. Everything's. I really don't have a whole lot to complain about.
Yeah.
I really love that the people that I have in my life right now. I'm making new friends. Really cool things are in store in my life, and. So I don't see this as a negative in any way.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, the way you're doing it, you're not shutting the door permanently either,
Mm-hmm.
So if it does remain shut, then that's fine too. But if it doesn't, then the door, it's not locked, you can always open it back up, so,
Exactly. Yeah.
And,
in the meantime, well, go ahead.
So that's a huge lesson, I think, for everybody out there, is that so often we feel that we're tied in or we have to make these ultimate decisions, that it's this way or no way, or, once I give this up, I'm never going to do it again. And it's like, no, you can put pause on stuff. You can put a pin in it and walk away and still come back. There's nothing saying or stopping you other than you from going back to something that you've left on the table.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we tend to deal in absolutes so often in our lives. And, that's the one thing I've kind of learned is, I've gone back to doing things over and over again. And these concepts of never say never, on one hand, I don't like to think in those terms where, if I'm going to make a decision, I want to make it with, after talking to people, after, sitting with it for a while, make an informed decision, but then make a decision and live up to it. Because I found for myself, when I don't commit, it tends to make me a little more confused in life.
Yeah.
Uncertainty does not sit well with me. I used to think it was liberating and, I'm so free, but I actually realized it was kind of a chain in a way dragging me down.
Yeah.
Life is easier when you make concrete choices and you just run with it. Seems, at least for me it is.
Oh, so. You're totally right. If you remember around Thanksgiving, remember when I was talking about how saying no to people was so liberating, because normally I'm like, well, maybe I'll this or, and instead I was just like, no. And it felt so good to just go no. and because it opened me up.
Yeah, and so I had Quill over last night. He podcasted with me doing Gotham Lights, and I said, "Hey, I'm not going to do any live music for a while, and I'm going to get rid of some gear and simplify some things and work on new stuff." So cool stuff. So
that's awesome. Now, have you gone to the doctor or anything for your ear? We lost Hanno.
Oh no,
we can't hear you, Hanno. If you're talking.
I'm not able to hear you guys at all right now.
Oh my god, the irony of this is so funny.
Oh no, should we pause, Brian?
Yeah, let's pause. We'll come back in a second here.
So now that we're back, we have Hanno back with us, and thankfully his hearing was not lost in the last few moments. So Hanno, the question on the table was, have you gone to the doctor yet to have your hearing checked?
No, I have not. So that is next on the list. I was waiting for this antibiotic run to get done, and the sinus infection gone, and then I can go in there and at least know that I don't have anything, pending that needs to be fixed first. So, yeah,
that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be tough. I mean, hearing issues, it's not the worst things in the world, but because I think seeing is more important to me anyways than hearing. Maybe, I don't know. It's kind of a tough thing to ever have to choose. Thankfully, I won't have to. Hopefully, but. Yeah. Hearing is very important, and take care of your ears, people.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. Like, my hearing isn't, my hearing is damaged, for sure, from years of various, music things and ear infections and blah blah blah. But I don't have like hearing loss, like really bad hearing loss. So far, it's just the ringing, and so. Luckily, I can at least sit there and say this is just mostly a nuisance. It's not like, I'm sitting here completely unable to, like I don't, like my left ear isn't worse than my right ear when I'm listening to music with my headphones on or anything like that. So.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So that's good at least. It's not like I go, whoa, I've lost hearing. It's like no, they still sound the same. I mean, I know I've had hearing loss, but
yeah.
But a lot of it's also, a lot of this is, it's like, I'm not a young chicken here.
Right.
There is that.
Yeah.
So I will accept those limitations.
Who knew standing next to loud amps would do that to you? I mean, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, I know. Go figure.
Yeah.
Crazy talk stuff.
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be like us, kids. If you're playing the loud rock and roll music or going to loud rock and roll shows, maybe wear some ear protection.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Even though
I know.
Even though we'll call you a dork if we see you wearing it, I'm just,
Oh yeah, especially the real big ear muff thingies that people wear.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, just the little ones that go inside the ear that'll do.
I don't know if I saw somebody wearing those at a concert, I'd be like, wow, that's interesting. They decided to go full on like construction site ear cans. Those are.
Right.
I know a guitar player that wears those on stage.
Really?
I mean, they're actual.
Wow.
Well, they're what they are is they're these super high isolation headphones that mostly drummers use when they record.
Yeah,
so
right.
They can, right?
Yep.
And this guitar player, he's using them because the in-ear monitors didn't offer enough protection from the stage volumes.
Oh wow! I was gonna say I've seen plenty of pictures of drummers wearing them while they were recording. So yeah, okay.
Yep.
Wow,
he
fair
literally
enough.
wears them. Yeah, he wears them live, and he has a mix pumped into them. But they are so isolating. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I guess he's making the right call there, right?
Well, he has actually lost his hearing.
Oh, okay.
Lost his hearing. So yeah. Still loves playing music.
Yeah, fair enough.
I guess you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's his living. It's not like he's going to go and take up another career. This is what he does. So,
yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
That's tough. It was, it was funny because I heard a couple people at that concert I went to a couple weeks ago. The singer / guitarist for the Summer Cannibals. her earplugs kept popping out of her ears because she was, moving about so much, and her, she's moving her head around, and her hair kept catching the cords from the earplugs and pulling them out of her ears, and they just kept popping out, and she kept trying to put them back into her ears, and I heard somebody going, why doesn't she just leave them out? And I'm like, do you hear how loud they're playing? Like,
Yeah.
like she's standing up there next to all that noise. We're, a decent distance back,
Right.
like, it's like, that's why she'd like to be able to hear tomorrow, So.
Exactly.
So anyway.
Well, so my week's been really good. I mean, things have settled down. I'm not getting the highs and lows that I was getting the last couple weeks. So things have been going fairly well at work. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback, which I think helps. It's definitely something that you said, Henno, about kind of making a decision and sticking by it and going with it. I think that's really been beneficial for me, as I've been just taking initiative and just doing things. And I figure if they don't like it, they'll let me know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just kind of just doing it, And I think I've lived way too much of my life in fear of retribution, fear of what people are going to say, and, what if they don't like it, what if they do like it, and getting caught up in all of the anxiety of it all.
Yeah.
I don't let myself be free to be me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Reactive
and,
instead of proactive. Yeah.
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 And so I'm really trying to be very proactive and just, staying on task and keeping the goals in front of me that I want and making my goals known in an appropriate way. So I'm feeling pretty good about things, and the whole medicine thing is evened out. It's safe to say that I no longer have anything other than the two that I've been taking on a regular basis. So I know that that's gone from my system, but yet I'm still keeping things together. I'm not having any major swings, which is a good thing.
That's really great.
That's really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm really happy with the way things are right now, and life changes. So I'm aware, and I'm kind of keeping that on the horizon, that I need to be flexible, and life is not always going to be as easy, quote unquote easy, as it is at this exact moment. So I'm really going to have to still make sure I keep doing my trainings and my steps and my breathing exercises and my mind exercises to keep myself sharp. So, as you talked about, I think on the last episode, about how sometimes it's easiest when it's like, oh, I'm fixed, I'm cured, I'm great, and things are going good, and you kind of slack off on that stuff. I think now it's more important than ever that I make sure that I keep myself as tight with all of that as possible.
So when you are able to get when you get the health insurance,
mm-hmm.
So are you going to go back on the meds then?
I'm going to go back to
all the work
doctors.
that you're doing.
I'm going to go back to the doctors. I'm going to talk to them. Definitely my primary physician. Talk with her and explain kind of what's going on and how I'm feeling, how I'm doing, and listen. I'm going to get her professional opinion.
Cool.
And kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're doing a lot of work right now. You have to take extra steps,
mm-hmm.
but if it's working, now that's new information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he did say, and my psychiatrist did say that after 3 years we could test it.
Oh, okay.
Granted, I'm doing it without his help, which I don't think was ever his intention.
Right.
No.
But,
and I'm sure there'll be some finger wagging about that, but
yeah, I would agree. I'm sure there will be some finger wagging.
Right.
They're not going to be exactly thrilled with me,
Yes.
but so far it's working out really well, and I'm feeling really good about where things are at and how things are going.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah. Well, kind of brings us to the topic of the day. Is an article that Brian sent over to the the email box, curiosityzone@outlook.com, for all you peoples out there. It's 9 mental habits that will make you bitter. Now, this really struck a chord with me because we all have the friends that life has just made them bitter, basically. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. And a series of things, be them as bad as they think they are or not, it doesn't really matter. To them, they are bad things happen. Bad things happen to good people, as we all know. And they have let that kind of hijack their minds and taint even pleasant things for them. Like, they can't get out of their own heads to enjoy what is good about what's going on.
Yeah, you'll hear people say phrases such as just my luck, or those kind of things. Like they'll immediately twist things into looking for the bad, or immediately turn things into the worst case scenario, basically. Again, things that you would find on the Distorted Thinking worksheet.
And you will find a lot of similarities to the stuff you've talked about from therapy and stuff that Henno that you've brought up from the steps. And honestly, this kind of even reminds me of how where both of you guys have kind of come at things, because I'm notoriously optimistic. I've always been this way. It's part of my nature. And I think Henno and Brian, you guys have both shared that has not always been the case for either one of you. And it took a little bit of work to get to the optimistic spots that you are in today.
Yeah, I wouldn't even, still to this point, I wouldn't even call myself cautiously optimistic. I think that's like best case scenario for me. I'm trying to get to that point, but yeah, I've always been, prepare for the worst and be surprised by the best. That's the way I've always approached things. And, I don't recommend that. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times in life where preparing that way has paid off, but it's maybe one out of every arbitrary number of times, and that's not worth it, So.
Yeah. And one of the things that jumped out at me just from the title of this is, and I had to, when you first said it, I was kind of like, I had to, ask a couple times, because most of the time when we're looking at improving our lives, or we're reading self-help books, this and kind of stuff, they're telling you how you should think versus how you shouldn't think. And I like this because it's telling you these are the ways not to do it.
Yeah.
and to be honest, that's a lot of, for me, my change in personality was because I learned how not to do things.
Yeah.
Not so much that I learned ways that counter that. I just stopped doing that stuff that was toxic.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point, because like the Distorted Thinking worksheets that I was given weren't, like, I think that was the thing too, because the first part on it is like, don't do this, do this. You know what I mean? And because if it was just the second half of the worksheet to where it was like, reframe things in a positive manner, it's like, well, yeah, no, duh. It's like, that's, who doesn't know, and then it feels more like the smile and you'll be happy kind of mentality. And when it first says, hey, by framing things negatively, you're actually doing this. And you go, wow, I hadn't thought of it that way. And then they go, instead, try this. Then you've kind of become receptive. Then you start thinking more positively about the second half of it, Yeah. And I think that's why I was more open to reading those things, because by being a negative thinking person, they approach you on your own turf, and then they bring the positivity. You know, instead of just hitting you with positivity to where you're like, yeah, I've heard it before. You know?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, the article you found was on Psychology Today, and it's by Andrea Bonjour, PhD, and she looks like she offered Friendship 2.0. The article states, few people want to become bitter and negative, and yet it's not uncommon, especially for people who have experienced more than their share of tough times. So if you want to have a more hopeful and optimistic outlook on life, see if you can diminish these mental habits and go from there. The first is not forgiving others. This is a big one. Many people equate forgiveness with forgetting that something happened altogether, or with saying that was okay and that it did. That's not what forgiveness is about. And many people claim that they have forgiven someone for something, while in reality they have not. What real forgiveness means is allowing yourself to be free from the resentment of having been wronged, to accept that something has occurred, and to believe that you deserve to move on from it. To declare your independence from preservating on how to get revenge on another person, to stop dwelling on how to make them make up for it, and continue to let that corrode your emotional well-being. It is letting go in its healthiest, truest sense. Forgiveness doesn't minimize the wrongness of someone's action. It just allows you to no longer be hurt by them. Forgiveness is associated with a reduced depression, stress, and hostility, and improved self-esteem, and even physical health. When you look at its benefits, you'll see it's about being kind to yourself, not doing a favor for someone else.
That's a real big one that's hard for people to get.
Yeah.
Yes.
We love to hold on to our little resentments. Who doesn't like to feel a little superior to their fellows, which is a line I've heard before. And, for me, it really, you hear this line is like, forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook. Forgiveness is realizing that there is no hook. And, that sounds fine and dandy, but to actually get to that point is something entirely different. But it comes down to this is when we're not forgiving somebody, it truly is drinking the poison yourself and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah.
All you're doing is making yourself miserable by holding it on and then thinking that, oh, well, somehow this is their responsibility to fix. And it's like, it comes back to the old, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's that's what I used to point out to people when I was always like, take your power back situation, because by not letting something go, you're essentially like, if someone hurts you and by letting something hurt you, you've essentially given someone power, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It's just the truth in that. And the longer you let it hurt you, the more power you've given them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so at some point you have to go, no, you know what? I'm not letting this hurt me anymore. I'm just going to move on from this. And like I said, in my head, it's like, even if it's not a forgiveness thing, if it's just a letting go of it, even if you're just like, I'm done with this, I'm just going to move on. And you just, like I said, even if it's not the act of actually saying I forgive you to a person, but you're just like, I'm just not giving this any more of my energy, and you just move past it. It's just such a burden. Again, it goes to, like you said before, it's the let go or be dragged concept to me.
Yep.
Let go of this, or it's just going to drag you into like the pits of hell, basically. Like, you just let it go and move on. It's very difficult. We all have been through it. Everyone knows what this is like. Everybody's got some grudge probably that they've held too long.
And this is like one of those sources of last week's episode.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a source. If you don't want to get into that racing brain stuff, don't let people rent space in your head. And when we do that, and this is where it ties into what I was talking about last week is this is all about sense of self and that how, it's self, like how important, don't you know who I am? I mean, that's where this comes from. And that's why, going back in psychiatry and psychology, they deal with ego. Spiritual leaders deal with, believing in a higher power. 12-step programs tie into actually both. They use both, but it all still comes down to ego.
Yeah. And
that's usually why we're not forgiving people, is because there's a level of pride that we just can't quite level. I like to say this, and it's one of my favorite things I learned, is try to be the right size for the situation. Because I used to never be the right size. I was always exploding too big.
Yeah.
I was dropping a nuke when a hand grenade would have been just fine.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I was talking with a friend who, it was a situation, she had left her boyfriend, and it was months later, and he was dating somebody else. And she's like, wow, I really I miss him and I want him back. And I'm like, do you really want him back? Or is it your ego talking? Yeah. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, do you want him back? Or are you lonely and missing having a partner? And she's like, well, I can see that. I said, because what good about him do you miss? Like, what does he bring to your table to make your life better that you miss, and that if you're missing it now, why'd you walk away from it? And put that into context. Now that he's seeing somebody else, is it just your ego that he has somebody else and not you? Is it truly your heart speaking, or is it your ego speaking? Because egos can be mended much easier than hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And she stopped and she looked at me. She's like, I never thought about that way, but you're right. She's like, I think it's my ego that was hurt when I saw him with another woman, not my heart.
Yeah, and when we're full of ourself, and I mean full of ourself, meaning that we're happy with ourself, that stuff doesn't bother us.
Yeah,
when we feel good about who we are, when we have that confidence, then that stuff doesn't get to us. But when you're weak, when your ego's been bruised, anything can cause hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's very natural and very important, the ego. You have to nurture it, you have to take care of it. It's very, 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 very important to who we are. But there is a difference between the ego and the heart. And you have to really make sure that you understand when someone has wronged you and where that falls. And like you guys had just mentioned, don't let someone rent the space in your head. Feelings need to be expressed. Give it the time that is necessary to express frustration, express the hurt, get it out of your system. 5-10 minutes, maybe even an hour. Vent about it. Get it out. Then let it go. Because at that point, once you've vented about it, once you've gotten the hurt out, the next step is to prioritize it and say, okay, so what level of hurt is this?
Yeah.
Is this an ego shot? Is this a heart shot? Is this something does this person that caused this pain to me deserve to be part of my life still? Mm-hmm. Do they bring value to me? Do they bring value to my life still? And if that is the case, then you start working on that aspect of it. If the determination comes back that, no, not really, they're not bringing any more value to me, then you have to move on.
Yeah.
It is their loss.
Yeah, it's very similar to like a paper cut versus like nearly cutting your arm off. It's like, don't freak out if you get a paper cut. If your arm's hanging on by a thread, yeah, sure, freaking out is perfectly, it's like, then you're not overreacting. It's like, at some point you kind of gotta, go, okay, which kind of cut is this? Is this something that, yeah, you know what, I'll be okay. I just need maybe a Band-Aid, you know, or, you know, I need an emergency room here, you know, it's like,
Exactly.
you know,
And I think and friends are very, very good at helping to identify which it is. Because a lot of times we can't necessarily identify a paper cut from your arm being chopped off.
Well, no, especially like if it's love or something like that, you know, because every cut feels like a, you know, an arm loss, you know.
Exactly. So it's like sometimes we need an outside perspective to kind of help us to see it for what it is. But we've also had, you know, everyone has had that friend that every time you talk to them, they bring up the same story, the same wrong that that person has done to them.
Yeah.
And they are still harboring on about it. And you just want to shake them. You're just like, move on. It's like, I'm tired of hearing about this. I'm tired of us talking about the same thing. I've given you advice. I've done everything I can to help you. You refuse to take it. Snap out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's true. We have to, forgiving is not forgetting. It's not the same thing. You can remember that someone did something to you and still forgive them and move past it.
Yeah. And that's what the article pointed out was, you know, how forgiving is not the same as forgetting, you know, and, but, you know, there is also that element too. And one last thing on this, I think we should probably move on is, if you tell somebody you've forgiven them, don't tell them you've forgiven them if you haven't, you know, don't say, oh yeah, I forgave you, but then keep throwing it in their face, you know, like, you know, that kind of a thing either, because that's just being petty and ridiculous as well. So
that's not forgiving.
Right. That's just being childish. So, you know.
And the next one ties right into it, and actually even harder, which is not forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
So everything we just talked about, let's multiply it exponentially on the difficult scale. Yeah, you have to allow yourself to move on from your own mistakes. Regret, embarrassment, shame, and guilt from a single mistake can haunt you for years. And the ensuing negative thoughts, stress, and pessimistic outlook can create a dynamic in which you view the world in a bitter way. So, I gave up singing in public for a while because I had a horrible experience with karaoke. I went up and I was singing karaoke, and I got to a part of the song. It was a bad karaoke mix. Got to the part of the song where the melody wasn't clear. I lost the melody. I couldn't put the words to the melody, and it just, it all fell apart. And to make it even better, one of the people in the group, who is a friend of a friend type of a situation, decided she was going to heckle me.
Ugh.
So she was heckling me as I'm trying to get my stuff together and find the melody and put the lyrics with the melody to a song I'm not 100% familiar with that I thought I was 100% familiar with. And it turned into this like horrible, horrible experience. I internalized that experience, did not hold it against the person that was heckling me. I held it against myself for not being able to put my stuff together and be able to handle a tough situation. Haunted me. I could not forgive myself for not rising to the occasion, shall we say. And because of that, it got in the way of something that I love to do. And it made me horribly self-conscious. It changed my tone of my voice because I didn't have the confidence behind my voice. So my voice wouldn't come out right. I mean, it just really wrecked me. All because I wouldn't forgive myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? And I look back at it and I'm like, that's so dumb. I spent years of my life trapped by my own mind. So it just, you gotta let yourself be free to make mistakes, and it's okay.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That this one actually is the harder of the two, or of the forgiving ones. This is the harder one. It is.
Because we.
Sorry, go ahead, Hanno.
I was just going to say, we are our worst critic.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
And that's even without the anxiety and the negative voices that come with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you add those on top of normal anxieties and normal fears and normal bad situations, you know, and it takes it to such another level that you just, again, with the first one, though, you have to get it out of your head. Deal with the feelings, forgive yourself, and move on. Use those techniques to stop the racing brain that we talked about last week. You know, use the breathing techniques. Stop going back and revisiting those moments. Don't torture yourself with those moments, you know, which we love to do. Replay everything that was said between you and your boss in their last bad conversation you guys may have had. Not going to help you, not going to help them, not going to do anything except torture yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Once it's over, it's over. You can't. Yeah, you can't change anything about it. Yeah, mm-hmm. It's so tough because I've done this so many times with drawing stuff that I've beat myself up for not being able to put on paper what I see in my head. You know, like why am I not good enough? Why can't I do what, you know, like it's like, why can I see it but I can't do it? You know, like that kind of thing. And it isn't even, and no one has ever said to me, like, you know, like, well, why didn't, you know, like, no one else can see what I'm seeing in my head. So no one else could look at it something, especially if it's not something that's still life or something, you know, like if it's something I just make up and I draw, you know, no one can look at that and go, that's not right. You know, like if I made it up, you know, they can't go, that isn't right. So they could just go, all right, what is it? Or what, you know what I mean? But in my head, I can look at it and go, it's not right. It's not right. You know, like, why didn't you get this right? Or why didn't you? And it's like Heno said, you know, you're your own worst critic. But I would beat myself up so badly for this stuff that it's really gotten to a point. And again, I've brought it up before, but it's gotten to a point that I've gotten to where I don't draw because that critic has gotten so bad that I just can't bear to face it, you know, and it's awful. So that, you know, like I said, at some point in my therapy, it's going to be a main focus is to try to work on shutting that critic up, you know, to allow me to be able to do something that I love to do. I really do deep down love the process of art and being part of that. And I can't, you know, I can't stress enough how much it drives me crazy that I don't do anything about that, you know? So I fully understand. It's a different scenario, but I understand, you know, that inner bully, as we talked about in one of our early episodes, is so brutal sometimes that it's really hard to forgive yourself for being that inner bully as well, you know? Mm-hmm. You forget sometimes that, you know, that you're the one behind that voice, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And it's amazing because you can say all of these negative things to yourself. Guess what? You can also say all these wonderful positive things to yourself. We don't come by that naturally, unfortunately. Yeah. Most of us don't have that natural positive voice in our heads. So we have to create it. We have to, you know, nurture it and let it grow and find that positive voice and that piece of forgiveness and let that slowly take over the negative thoughts, the negative voices and stuff like that. Mm. And again, like everything that we've talked about in the past, it takes time, it takes work, and it takes continuous effort and continuous focus on change and doing these positive things to change the way you think. So it's not easy, but it's possible.
Yeah, and there's a one thing I do want to say is there's a big difference between learning how to, you know, come to terms with the idea that you need to quit hoping for a better past, you know, yes. or learn how to, you know, like you said, be okay with your mistakes, realize that you're human. There's a big difference between that kind of forgiving oneself and the kind that people carry with them at a soul sickness level, like maybe as a result of a divorce, something didn't go well for the kids, and it's not something that's apparent, but it's very deep, and that's where professionals really, you do need to see a professional.
Yes,
when you've had a significant life experience and you're carrying the guilt of that, and we're talking, this is PTSD level kind of stuff. That is when you do really need to see a professional. That's a little bit more than just like, why did I say that yesterday?
Right. Exactly.
There's always
that. No, that's a very good point. Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Mm-hmm. And I think we also want to make sure that we're very clear that most of the stuff we're talking about is not necessarily in an abusive situation, physical or mentally abusive situation. These are more of like one-off things that happen. If you are in a situation where it's a continuous hurt, be it physical or mental, then you need to seek professional help to get yourself out of that situation.
Yeah. Well, aside from, realistically, it is self-abuse, and you still should, like what I do to myself essentially is abusing my own self. So it's still, if you're that hard on yourself, like we've all said with all of this, if you're at a point, like Heno said, if it's a soul, down to your soul kind of a thing and stuff, not just a this or that kind of thing, but again, as we always say on the show, if it's something if it's affecting your life and you can't handle it, seek others, seek professional help. That's what they're there for. It does not make you weak. It does not do anything else. That's what those people are there for, is to help.
Exactly. All or nothing thinking. Somebody in this group is very, very close to doing this.
Well, that's why the distorted thinking worksheet was handed to me. That is one of the things on that worksheet. Mm-hmm. All or nothing thinking.
It's amazing. And I think sports, people who are really into sports run into this a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's all or nothing. It's win, lose.
Yep.
And they get that drilled into them at such a young age that they really have a hard time breaking free and seeing that the many different grays. That, maybe you lost the game, but you hit 3 home runs.
Yeah.
There's personal growth and personal positivity you can take from that. Mm-hmm. Even though the loss stinks and nobody likes to lose, there's still positives within that negative. And it's tough, I think, for a lot of sports. People have a hard time seeing that. So the article writes, what all or none thinking does, by its very definition, is make your outlook on life more rigid. It magnifies negativity by making it appear bigger than it really is. Keeps your mind focusing on what's going wrong than what's going right, and it sets you up to see the bad in people, things, and life more often than the good. Are you inherently uncomfortable with shades of gray? Do you prefer things to be more black and white? That might be good for organizing a closet, but when it comes to how you process bad things happening, it can hurt you.
Yeah, because what you find out in life is as much as kind of when you're a kid, everything is right or wrong, basically. But what you find out when you get a little bit older is that realistically, most things in life are gray. They're not black or white. And it's very hard to process, because there's so many things that function in the gray areas, that are in those cloudy areas that make you go, and it that blur those lines, and you start really having to consider, is this right? It's a little bit wrong, but it's not that wrong. And, but for some people, they still will go, nope, it's wrong. You know, and when you live life like that, it's very difficult, you know, and I did it for a long time. I was very, very black and white on stuff, and it's so hard to change your thinking when you're that way. You know, it's very hard. And, you know, there's a lot of people that way that, you know, a tiny, tiny fraction of weed is just as bad to them as 10 pounds of weed, you know, kind of a thing. Whereas to a lot of people, they'd be like, listen, that's not even enough for a joint, you know, but, you know, the other is enough to run your own cartel, you know, it's, you know, it's like, you know, and realistically, it's like, well, one is intent to distribute. The other is, you know, hey, listen, you know, it's enough for, you know, to get a little buzz. There's a big difference. And even the law recognizes that. So, and that's the thing. When you start looking at the way the penal system looks at things, even they recognize that there's different degrees of things, you know. And so I think you have to kind of do that in life. If you just go, everything's a win or everything's a loss, what you're going to find in life is there's no wins or there's very few. You know, you will get a win every 20 years. And that's not the truth. That's not the way what life is. There's little wins all the time. And if you're only looking at big wins or big losses, you're only going to see losses, because the little wins, you'll just gloss over them because you're thinking negatively all the time. Trust me, I know.
And what do we say? Celebrate the little ones. Because you celebrate the little ones, and pretty soon they become the big ones.
That's what I'm told.
Yep. Yeah, so celebrate the little ones. So the next one is holding others to a higher standard than you hold yourself. Now, I have a take on this. I have a tendency to hold people to standards that I do hold myself.
I was going to bring up that. I think that's worse. I know people that are like that.
And I struggle with this because I get disappointed by people, and I have to stop myself.
Yeah.
I have to stop myself and say, am I disappointed for them? They're acting the way they are. Why am I disappointed in them for being who they are?
Yep. Tiger being tiger. Yep.
That's not being an acceptance.
Yeah.
And I used to really struggle with this. A friend of mine in high school was kind of, she was wacky, and I didn't quite get her. We all hung out in this big group, and I didn't quite understand her, and I didn't quite get her. And I used to get so frustrated because people would let her get away with things. And they would say, oh, that's just her being her. And I used to get so frustrated because I'm like, nope, that is not an excuse for behavior like that. It's like her being her doesn't excuse behaviors. When I stop and I look back at that and I think about it, and I'm like, there is elements to her being her. There's also elements to what I want in my life and what I don't want in my life.
You were both correct.
Yes.
Now, they were correct. That was her being her. And then there's the element of you having the right to say, well, if that's her being her, I don't want that in my life, or I don't want to be around that. And that was the decision you needed to make at that point. Because, again, you can't force someone else to change. You can only change you. And, you know, but putting that kind of wisdom into a high school kid. Yeah.
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 I wanted to change others. I wanted to bring others to what I want them to be.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to them.
Nope.
Because, and it took me a long time to understand that that's not fair to them, because they're being who they want to be. It's me that's having the problem, and it's me that needs to either adjust to it or make my own decision. It's me taking control and ownership of me. So...
And that's this really ties into codependency. It's when we try to control others, and it is. You don't think that you are, but you are. You know. And I have a very close friend that's like this. She looks at how other people, especially when it's like work is work, but more like, let's say the friends are planning something together, some events happening or whatever it is, and this good friend of mine, and she admits this. She goes, "That's not how I would do it. I would do it this way." And she thinks that everyone else should do it, and it like it makes her bitter. It makes her bitter all the time because she expects people to react the way she does. And it's like, no, people will react the way that they'll react.
Right. Trying to control people and always being right are also on the distorted thinking worksheet. Just pointing out.
Yep. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's like hurting a bunch of cats.
It
doesn't
is.
work.
No, it doesn't. And that's the thing. You find that out really quick. And I did that for a time too, where I used to hold people to, like in my head, it was like, well, I'd hold them to the standards of me. And it was like, well, if you're not to that level that in my head, I don't know if I can be friends with you. And then I was like, all this is going to do is lose me a lot of friends. And, and then I was like, I have to change my way of thinking because this does not apply to people. And it's not fair to apply it to people, because they're being the best person they feel they can be. No one's really trying to go be a horrible person. I don't generally believe, so they're trying to do the best they can. And, really, if I got into their head, they'd probably look at me and go, geez, why doesn't he live up to my standards? So, it's, so whatever. Well, let's just all, cool our jets on that one. And, it's just easier. I don't get disappointed by people as much now that I don't think that way. It's amazing how much less stress I have about it.
And it's also amazing how much better people are than you give them credit for sometimes. Like, by not judging them, by letting them be who they want to be and who they are, and not constantly judging, you give them the freedom to be the great person that they are. And they'll surprise you. Sometimes they disappoint you too, but they also surprise you. They also can stand up and do things that if you would have dictated to them. I think husbands and wives have this a lot. It's like wives are constantly telling husband, what to do. It's like, you do it this way and this and this is how it works. If you take that step back and instead of trying to control the situation and let them do what they want to do and how they want to do it, it's amazing. Sometimes you can learn from them and you can see a different way of doing things and you can grow and you can enjoy seeing what they can bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because again, the constant need to be right is on the distorted thinking worksheet. I'm just pointing at, it's like, so if that is something you find as a person that you find yourself constantly needing to tell other people, this is how I would have done it, time to take a step back, folks. Yeah. Whether you have a mental illness or not, it's time to take a step back and reevaluate yourself because, you've probably got some people talking behind your back about that. I mean, I'm just saying, it's not to try to put thoughts in your head, but I'm just saying,
the next one is believing that things will never get better.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll certainly cause you to be bitter. I mean, that's almost, that's almost verbatim what it is, right?
and I think the another one that goes with this one is believing that things will never get worse.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. They didn't, that's not in the article, but that's another one that I think people get caught up in is that they put these ultimatums on life that things are never going to get better. So you're closing off all opportunity for it to get better. Mm-hmm. Things can never get worse. Well, as we all know, as soon as those words come out of your mouth, guess what happens?
Oh yeah.
There's always, that's like, I hate to say tempting fate, but it is. It's tempting fate. It's not looking for how to make things better. It's not looking at the hand that you have and playing the hand that you have. It's trying to change the past or trying to change the future. And you can't do either. You can't the only way to make things better, the only way to not have things get worse, is for you to play the hand that you have and find the positives and find ways of making it better, of minimizing how it can get worse. It's all active. You have to take action. If you make these blanket statements and don't take any action, then guess what? Nothing's going to change.
You know, it's funny. Heno and I were just talking about this last week. I think it was after we were done recording, though, wasn't it, Heno?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, we were just talking about how if you just stand there and with the mentality of that things are going to happen, you know, that things are destined to happen to you or whatever. It's just that's not how things work. You know, it's just not how things work. Like, don't get me wrong. Things happen every day that you don't directly affect. Obviously, what happens over in Africa, I have nothing to do with. You know, that would go on whether I was here or not. That stuff's still going to happen. But it's like, as far as my direct life goes, things that happen in it, I affect it every day by the choices that I make. I can get up every day and do nothing in my life, and my life will essentially stay the same, and I could have that mentality of, wow, my life sucks. Nothing ever gets better in my life. And it's like, well, what did you do to change that? Well, the universe is just not putting anything out there for me. It's like, well, what all have you done to make the, you know, to help the universe kind of, you know,
get something to work with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If I just stand there and do absolutely nothing, like I'm in therapy, I'm trying to work on how I see things so that I can be in a better mindset, so that I can recognize if something is out there, because it's very likely that with the mindset that I have, there could have been an opportunity right in front of me and I would have just been like, meh, you know, and just overlooked it. And that's part of the problem. So I'm trying to make those changes. You know, that's me trying to be proactive, at least in that way, so that maybe I can be proactive in other ways, so that down the road I can be proactive in multiple ways, and then eventually all those ways, you know, fold into something that actually makes a difference, you know. And but just standing around picking your nose is not going to make any difference in your life. Your life's just going to consistently, it will either stay similar or regress. So if you think it will get worse, it will, simply because you're ignoring things. And, you know, I mean, obviously you're going to have bills and you're going to have responsibilities. And if you're not doing them, there will be consequences. But otherwise, yeah, nothing's going to really get better if you don't do anything to change things. You know, it's like having an infected foot and not cleaning it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't this getting better? Yeah. Like, this isn't getting any better. I don't understand. Well, did you clean it out? No. The universe is going to clean it out for me. Like, well, a doctor's going to cut it off for you at some point.
Exactly. That's what's going to really happen.
Yeah, you're going to get change, all right.
And the last one on the list is believing the myth of arrival. The myth of arrival refers to the idea that once you've arrived at a certain point in your life, everything will fall into place and the life you have waited for will finally begin. But sometimes this belief that things will automatically get better once a certain thing happens can be nearly as damaging as believing that things will never improve.
No doubt.
Because the former sets you up for a devastating letdown when things actually don't get better. Once I finally meet my one, get my promotion, lose those 20 pounds, live in a bigger house, get my kids settled into independent, successful lives, then I'll be happy, are common ways of thinking. But putting out our happiness on hold and in the hands of random life events that may or may not have any effect whatsoever on our happiness is giving way too much power to an external situation and not nearly enough to ourselves.
Yeah, this doesn't solve the cause. It doesn't solve the cause of the problem.
No.
It's if the cause of the problem is that you, whether it's a mental illness or just an underlying unhappiness, you know, you need to solve that. Like if it's a weight issue, losing 20 pounds isn't going to necessarily solve that, you know? Like, oh, if I lose 20 pounds, then all of a sudden I'll get all the dates. And it's like, no, not necessarily. Maybe you're an asshole. You know, sorry for the language, but you know
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It's like, maybe maybe it's your personality. Maybe it's not the weight, you know, or maybe it's your crippling
Mhm.
shyness. You know, you need to fix it. You need, you know, and sure, maybe losing some weight, you'll get a little more, confidence or something, but it may not fix anything, you know, or moving.
Yeah.
This is one that I've heard people say before, and oh my goodness, what a terrible idea. Like, if I move to another city, like that you can escape your problems. And all that does is put you in another city, and then you wake up one day and you're like, I don't know anybody here. Like, I don't have a support system. I'm lonely. You know what I mean? And you could just be setting yourself up for a horrible fail, you know?
Yeah, we call that pulling a geographic.
Yeah.
It's like you change everything except guess what came with you?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
I mean, another one that we hear very often on TV and in the movies and things like that is bad relationships. It's like, well, maybe we'll have a kid. That'll make that'll make things better, right? You know, yeah, no.
Yeah.
The bad relationship is still there.
Yeah. Oh, things will be different if we get married or move in together or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oof.
You know, once I get my promotion, once I get X amount of dollars in my bank account, that's when I'm going to work on working out. And that's when I'm going to, you know, work on trying to find a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to, you know,
Right.
I have X amount of dollars to be able to have a child.
Yeah.
You know, all this stuff is
Yeah.
arbitrary goals that we set for ourselves, which goals are great, but you can't stop world until you meet that specific goal.
Yeah. And again,
You know?
go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead, Heno.
I was just going to say that the old, you know, one that, you know, all right, when I lose this much weight, then I'll go on vacation, or then I'll this, or then I'll that. And it's just like, you know, go on the freaking vacation.
Yeah.
Don't wait for that stuff. You know, if you want, you got to bring joy into your life when you can.
Yeah.
And waiting for, you know, it's like, that's one of the worst things to do is to limit the possibility of joy in your life based on something. There's something deeper to me always about that. You know, it all comes back to one thing again: self.
Yeah.
You know, either too much or too little, one or the other.
Yep.
But we're definitely not balanced, and we're not in the right place when we can't go enjoy ourselves because of some external, you know, some concept.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, is that, you know, when you start doing that stuff, that tells you, you know, there's an underlying problem that you are avoiding, you know, and that's what you need to fix, and don't put it off. Like, I've heard, how many times do you hear somebody in like October go, after the first of the year, I'm gonna hit the gym, you know,
Yes.
and you're like, why not just hit it now?
Just go now.
Why are you waiting until January? You know, it's like, listen,
New Year's resolutions.
nobody wants to go to the gym, you know, I mean, not nobody, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, a lot of people want to put it off, but why wait 3 more months? If it means that much to you, why wait 3 more months? Go now, you know, get after it. It's, you know, or I've heard people with therapy stuff, you know, like, well, I've got a lot on my plate. I actually not heard, in one of the online groups I was in at one point, there was a guy, we were talking about some mental health stuff, and he was like, I got a lot on my plate right now. In a few months, when things settle down, I'm going to go to therapy. And I was like, seems like now is the time to go. You've got a lot on your plate. It seems like now would be a better time to start and get in there so the therapy can help you while you've got a lot on your plate. And I was like, trust me, it's, you know, and I understand you want to try to calm yourself. You know, it's intimidating to go for the first time, is why he wanted to put it off. But it's that kind of stuff. It's a lot of people will do that. They'll put stuff off because they're intimidated, or they just don't want to prioritize, or they're just avoiding something. Like you said about moving, you know, it's the self thing, you know. But the other side of this is, if you put some of this off, or like you said, if you attach a reward to something, the real problem to it is, I think Jen mentioned when she read the thing, was if you fail, this can have
Yeah.
a really bad effect on you. You know, what if you put a weight loss goal on something like you said, you know, oh, I'm going to go on a vacation. You know, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. After I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to go on vacation. Well, let's say you've got friends attached to this or something, you know, or whatever. And they lose their weight and they're like, hey, we're ready to go. And you're like, oh, I didn't lose the weight. I'm not going, you know, and it's just go on the vacation. Just go have fun. Bring the joy into your life. Do the weight loss independently.
Well, when are you more likely to take on the weight loss or the whatever it is that you have going on, whatever it is that's limiting you? When are you more likely to do that? When you're uplifted and joyful and energized from taking a vacation, or when you're sitting in your house doing nothing? It comes back to that all or nothing thing. It's like your chances of probably going to the gym are a lot better if you walk into the front door.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like if you're putting stuff off because of that one thing, you know, maybe you go on that vacation, you come back, and now you're stoked to go do whatever it is, see a therapist, get your, you know, get your teeth fixed. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever
right,
it is that
exactly.
you're not doing.
Right.
You know, it's like we need to bring joy in anytime we can. Those little baby steps build up and give us a better chance of doing this thing right and getting out of that resentful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And bitterness.
Well, plus, you know, like if it's a vacation or something, you come back and you're energized a little bit, you know? And what better time to go hit the gym? You know, you're kind of, you know, fresh off that vacation energy, you know, and it's, you know, use that to kind of jumpstart your new program or whatever.
That's it.
Yeah. Because like you said, if you're sitting on your butt at home, you're going to be like, I don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention is I've heard many, many people say, I'm going to start dating when I lose weight, or I'm going to start dating when I change this about myself.
Yeah.
And what I have to say to that is everyone deserves love, regardless of size, regardless of shape, regardless of gender, regardless of anything else. You deserve to be loved. And there's someone out there that will love you for who you are and will support you in whatever goals that you're working towards. So don't let yourself stand in your own way of finding happiness. It's a huge mistake. You know, it hurts me every time I hear someone say something along those lines. It just hurts me because it's like, no, you deserve happiness. It's not contingent on anything other than you deserve this. This is something that you've earned by just being a human.
Yeah. But it's part of the whole self-defeated process of, you know, especially if there's mental health or mental illness involved, you know, it's an unfortunate part of it, but you're totally right. Everyone deserves it and shouldn't put it off if they feel they're ready for it. You know, it's different if you don't feel you're ready for it, you know, because it can be a very exhausting process.
It's brutal.
You know, so, you know, if you feel you're mentally strong enough for it, get after it. Go for it. You know, and just remember that you're worth it and don't settle for less than you deserve. And listen to your friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because sometimes
friends can see things that you don't.
Yeah. Well, plus sometimes your self-value sometimes you think you're, you know, a clearance item and you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you should be premium. That's all, you know. And your friends a lot of times will see your value. So listen to your friends. Maybe not all the time, but at least hear them out.
Exactly. And you know what? Get your friends' opinions on things. And especially if you're going online and doing online dating, have your friends, female and male friends, take a look at your profile and make sure that you're representing who you really are. Because more often than not, I guarantee you're underplaying probably some of your greatest assets. And they're the ones that are going to help you see what your greatest assets are and make sure that you're presenting the best part of you, because they'll know. They know why they're friends with you. They know what makes you amazing, and they'll help you to put that on paper, to put that on the interwebs, because that's what you deserve. You deserve to be amazing because you are amazing. Now, the last one, which is, I think, a perfect way for us to even bring the show to a close, which is not practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
So that'll make you so better. Practice gratitude. By now you've probably heard it, and I've written about it in this very space. Being grateful for things big and small brings big changes to your mental health. It's much harder to be bitter about your late arriving dinner, I'm never coming to this restaurant again, and have it ruin your whole night if you allow yourself to acknowledge how gorgeous the blooming trees are outside the restaurant windows while you waited, or the fact that you are able to afford to pay someone to cook a meal for you at all, or the fact that you were with someone who could make you laugh, no matter how much your stomachs were growling. Some people may think that gratitude, meditation, or keeping a list of things that you're grateful for is hokey. But would you rather be a little hokey or be the person who goes through whole life without the mental and physical health benefits? There you go, folks. I think it's something that's pretty much a string that ties most of our shows together.
Yeah. Well,
be grateful.
We actually talked about it on one of our episodes, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. We talked about gratitude lists and such. So that's a good one to go back and have a listen to. I don't do gratitude lists necessarily, but I do run through my head at times. Like I do it kind of probably every couple weeks. I try to kind of run through it in my head. And if nothing else, I do it as a grounding exercise, to kind of make sure that my head's back where it needs to be. To just make sure that I'm not getting too far away from where I should be, that I'm saying thank you for the things I should say thank you for, like even when I go out to eat and I say thank you a lot, every time I ask a server for something and they bring it to me, I say thank you, unless I have a mouthful of food or something, but I always try to say thank you. And if someone holds a door for me, I say that. I always try to show my gratitude to people. I've tried to, when people go above and beyond for me as they have at different times, I try to show my gratitude to people, and stuff like that too. So I want people to know when they're appreciated, because there's so many times in life that I don't know that people do. And there's too many times we've heard stories of people taking their own lives, and then you read these just phenomenal stories of people talking about how appreciated that person was, and you wonder if that person knew how appreciated they were. Sometimes maybe they wouldn't have. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes maybe they didn't know. So this one's kind of important. Even if you don't do gratitude lists, show your gratitude. Tell people thank you. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Even if you don't write down your gratitude list, like I said, just tell people how grateful you are for them. That kind of thing. So that's my bit. Moving on.
It's being grateful. It brings so much to you and so much just positivity and humbling. It humbles you. It brings positivity to you. It attracts positive energies. So the more grateful you are for what you have and for what's around you, the more people will surround you with positivity and gratitude back. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you put it out there, it will come back. And you just embrace it and it's a learned trait, but learn to see the little stuff, learn to appreciate the little stuff, learn to accept the wins when they come your way, and let those wins carry you forward in your positivity and the gratitude and all of that good stuff. Yeah, it's hokey. The article says it's itself. It's like, yeah, it's hokey. And I've always lived in that hokey world. Some people find it annoying. Some people don't like it. And that's fine. But it's the only way I know how to live. And it's...
You know what, though? It's no more ridiculous than laying in your bed with your covers over your head, telling yourself that you're not good enough, that life hates you, and your friends don't like you. It's no more ridiculous than that is. And realistically, it's one of the counterpunches to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you'll find other people that are just like you. Just like when we're bitter, we'll find other bitter people.
Yep.
Because misery loves company.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Happiness loves company too. And you'll find people that are positive, and they'll be a positive influence on you because you're a positive influence on them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the kumbaya. That's what I like. It's the kumbaya of the world. I want us all to hold hands and sing songs together and dance around a big fire and enjoy who we are. So with that, I think it's time to wrap up. So if you want to continue the conversation with us, we'd love to hear from you. A few different ways you can reach us. You can reach me through Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life, and that's Jen with a G. You can also shoot us an email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com or visit our website at thecrazylife.weebly.com. And Heno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno, and my first name is spelled Henno, and you can find me at Facebook. Pretty easy.
And you, Brian?
You can also find the show on Twitter, where I post short articles sometimes that I find, or when the new shows go up at The Crazy Life Pod. You can also find our group over on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Crazy Life Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, Salty Language, at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. Let's see, what else do I have here? We're part of the Tangent Bound Network and the Wicked Radio Network, which you already knew if you listened to the intro stuff before. Well, I don't know how I have it arranged, but it's either before or after Heno's song at the beginning, which if you haven't listened to, go back and listen to, because it's an awesome song, and you'll get a kick out of it, because the message is great, and it's it's an uplifting song. If you listen to us on iTunes, if you could go give us a review, we'd appreciate 5 stars, but whatever you feel we deserve, please give us that. If you listen to us on Stitcher, please share us. That helps raise our stat, or where we're at in the viewing thing, so that when people search, they're more likely to see us, so that maybe we can get more listeners. And also, I forgot. There was something else I was going to mention there, but I don't remember. Oh, we're also on Google Play Music. So if you happen to use that service, just look for The Crazy Life on there and you'll find us. And aside from that, I'll go into the normal spiel here, which is we're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind. We're just 3 people discussing our experiences and just trying to share some tips. If you need help, please seek out professional help, or a group or something to that effect. If money is a concern, please contact your Department of Health or mental health. I can't remember, however it's worded in your state. There's usually programs that can help people with low-income people get mental health help. And, or sometimes there's support groups at libraries, churches, or various, community centers, YMCAs maybe, that kind of thing. So, just maybe Google your area if you can't afford something. Or, we have on our Facebook group, I have a bunch of links to websites, phone numbers and stuff if you need any sort of help, as I've come across them also. if you're feeling suicidal, please do not kill yourself. Please call the suicide hotline or suicide prevention hotline, or text 741-741 on your phone and tell them that you're feeling suicidal, and somebody will text with you to try to get you through your crisis. Or call somebody in your support system, or call 911, tell them you're having a mental health emergency, or if you have someone that can take you to a hospital, go ahead and do that. Tell them you're having a mental health emergency. But again, please seek out the help that you need, and please don't kill yourself.
Absolutely. And with that, everybody have a great week and keep breathing.